You there, Mika?
Yep, I'm right here. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can. We're going to try this. Now remember, announce yourself when you have a comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Call the meeting to order. It is 7:02. I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes. We all received them. Any comments, corrections? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion and second.
Motion. I'll move that we accept the minutes.
Second.
I have Courtney for a second. Any comments, changes, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Mika, aye.
Thank you. Citizen comments. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good to have you all here. We feel like we were only here 2 weeks ago, which I think we were. I'd like to hope that we could work our way through. Do you all have copies, or have you copies of the agenda, what we're covering? We have a couple of copies up here, happy to share. We will be going into executive session at the end of, after new business and before adjournment. So with that, no citizen comments, financial report. Turn it over to you, please, Sally.
So I included in your board packet a list of the EDC project expenses by the municipal accounting number. And so it has the total grant and the expenditures and the outstanding balance. We have quite a few projects that have been sitting on some money for a while.
Right.
And so it would be nice to get those off the books.
I would propose that there be some time limit for money to be spent, if not spent
Oh, yes, yeah. If
beyond.
anybody, I have a copy.
We've got one down here. For example, there are a couple of them, welcome signs, for example, which is a 2016 event.
Right.
Do we have a time limit for money spent?
We don't, and we should. I mean, we say that you're supposed to spend it within a year, but it's not very specific in how it's written. So that's something I think that we need to clarify in our grant award letters.
I would agree.
And we haven't done that. And I just went back and looked, and we didn't do it this time, so we'll make sure we do it in the future.
So I think we should make it policy to do it rather than right now mandate that it's a year, because depending on the project, shorter or longer might be appropriate, but that should probably just be part of the
Right.
grant preparation process.
Right.
So, Barry, what are you saying? So each proposal should be judged on its own merit, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that each proposal on the application,
Yeah.
maybe on the application, we include a timeline. How long will this project be?
That's
And
a
then
good
we'll
idea.
approve that, and that
Yeah.
becomes part of the conditions of the grant.
Good idea.
That sounds good.
What about for those pre-existing?
So I propose that I would contact those grantees and say to them, are you done? Ask them if they're done, and if they're done, then we can then zero them out. It's interesting because just in the way the municipality works, it's not quite that easy, but at least for our accounting, we will know. In order for her to balance it out, she actually has to go back and change the original award amount. So we can't just say, oh no, just take it off the books. So it's a little complicated, but we'll figure that out. The only thing is I'm passing this out is there is one that I would like to clear up, and that's that we went over on the public relations by $10.35.
Right.
And that's driving her a little crazy. So it would be nice if the commission approved an additional $10.35 just to clean up that account. It's an easy one. The other ones, I will contact the grantees and get their approval to call them closed.
I'm wondering, would it be appropriate for us, once the money is granted, and going along with Barry said about them indicating a timeline,
Right.
would it be appropriate for us to go back and say, well, how'd it go?
Yeah.
That is part of
That is
our
part.
expectation. We've asked, it is an expectation that we do get a closeout report as to what's been accomplished.
Yeah, and did it work for you or not, or, you know, and
Correct.
where are you with this?
We've never really had people come back to the commission to
Yeah.
provide feedback directly, and to that point, I would think it would be good, you know, that we do spend all of the time to do the interviewing, and we should spend the time to do the exit interview as well.
Sure, when you have to come back, say, listen, can you come back in 6 months and let us know, give us a little progress report, what's going on?
So then Sally, what actions, you're saying you're gonna take, because there's 4 anyway that I see on here that are logical to be closed out?
Yes, and I think, I'm not sure, we just got an Optimist Center, and I don't know if that closes them out or not.
That closes them out.
Yeah,
That
so
closes them out for funding.
Yes, so
That
that's-
was not one of my 4. I
Well-
was looking at Bluff Island, Welcome Signs, Wamba,
Yep,
and
Pentangle?
window displays.
window displays, yep. Pentangle should be fine.
Pentangle
0.
should be,
Yeah, those are definitely ones that I would contact. and-
okay. So you'll take action on
I
that?
will take action on those, however, that $10.35. you
So
need to
then,
take
could somebody please make a motion?
I move.
Second.
To fund public relations for $10.35. Do we want to take that money out of administrative and just transfer it? Would that work, Sally?
I don't think it needs to
Well,
come from
I don't
anywhere.
know if we want to burden the select board with a,
It's still gonna be a transaction regardless, so
Got it.
I would just take it
Okay.
out of the regular account.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I
Okay.
just remind you, open law in Vermont, in the state of Vermont, says when one person is on the phone, when you vote, you all have to say your name and then vote.
Mika, how do you vote?
Sorry, I had you on mute. Aye.
Mika, aye.
Courtney, aye.
Thank you.
Julia, I.
Tom, aye.
Barry, aye.
Joe, aye.
Thank you. Okay, with that, do we have any other update financially, Sally? Did we come back and did they go through that accounting for the end of the fiscal year, and do we have?
We're not done with the fiscal year yet. So she won't have end of fiscal year until
We get the next amount of money?
August, or even, well, just
Right.
even for municipality,
Okay.
it's not there yet.
Thank
So
you.
we have updated numbers, but they're virtually the same as they were last month.
Cool.
I hate to be problematic, but I just have a question in the back of my head. and
Yeah,
If
please.
somebody could clarify for me, it'd be good. Pentangle's wanted $25,000
Yes, sir.
towards a $100,000 fee to hire a fundraiser, is my understanding,
Right?
right?
I don't know the
Yeah,
full
that's
details.
that's
Okay.
exactly what I heard. So, and we granted to him,
We did.
and I'm wondering if the fundraiser was ever hired?
Yes.
Or where that,
And we did receive a report.
we did.
Yes, we did. They
Okay.
came back. The
I
report
didn't
came back
see it.
from, was hired, came back and said, do not go forward as requested.
Do not go forward as requested.
For raising funds.
Fundraising.
Oh, that's what the fundraiser said?
Yes, after extensive interviews, we did receive a written report back from Alita. But to your point before, we don't do a proper job of really
Yeah.
learning from that.
I think so.
It's a
Yeah, I
great,
think you're right, Tom.
right,
Yeah.
good point. So Sally, okay with financial then?
Yep.
I'll go on to the chairman report. I will start by saying this is my last official meeting. You know, it's bittersweet, but I will say we have started the handoff that Julia and Charlie Kimball will be stepping in effective tomorrow.
Guess so.
I guess so. And after this meeting, they've got it. I do have to reflect a little bit and just comment that after the last 3 years, I do feel good about what we've accomplished. I think that we still have a tremendous amount of work to do, I do think that we are beginning to do a better job of defining our roles, our expectations, our purpose, and I ask all the commissioners to continue to do all the good work that you are doing. You guys are awesome, you people are awesome, and the Woodstock is benefiting. So keep on plugging. I do also, one last thing, a plug. Sally, the frequency of the town plan is what?
7 years now, I believe, or
5 years.
no, they changed it. I believe it's 7 years now, it might even be longer than that, but a minimum of 7 years.
And when was the last town
The
plan?
last one we did, I believe, was 2015, so we're not due for a few years.
I would ask the EDC to keep that in mind and the understanding of the importance of the town plan and to do work as necessary to be actively involved in that plan and make sure that plan does reflect what you folks believe in and what you're trying to accomplish. I think that as the, so if the town plan states something that is close to your vision, I think that's important, then you can just continue to execute. So that's the end of my chairman report. And thank you. Sally.
You're blushing.
Well,
This one. I submitted a coordinator's report. I don't have anything to add at this point, but if you have any questions, now's the time.
did unfortunately, I think that some of the citizens did not receive that.
No, and I've been thinking about that. It doesn't get posted anywhere.
How do we accomplish
So I don't
that?
know if I don't know what the best way to do that would be.
We just post it on the website, on our page, on the Woodstock EDC website.
I don't have access to that, so I don't know how easy that is.
Could we put it on the town website along with?
With the minutes
the-
might be
or
the
the
easiest.
minutes and the agenda?
It might be maybe we could attach it to the agenda.
I
That would
think
work.
that would be a good way forward so that it's out there and benefit. Could you?
Post it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
we
was
could.
that, Courtney?
Just saying Woodstock VT
Yeah.
could post it as well.
Yeah.
But that would be good. Sally, maybe you could give a couple of highlights or?
It was a short month, so there wasn't as much in this report. Just that financial, I'm still trying to sort of clean up the processes that we're doing to do our financial invoices. So now all invoices should be coming to me. I will process them, make sure they get accounted to the correct account, municipal account, so that they can go into fill in one batch from one person, and he doesn't have to go connecting with other people. We also did a process for how long it will take, so we can let people know where they are in the process. And then, as you saw the list that I reviewed, the municipal grants and the accounts, just to see where we're outstanding, so that we can, again, get some of those off the books, so we don't have to look at them. The grant process, I sent letters to the grantees from last month, as well as updated process for how they can move forward on their grants, including how they get funded. And then I also worked on the housing study, which hopefully the survey will be coming out in the next, actually I'm having a conversation tomorrow, so we should be seeing that housing survey in the next week get out. There was a little bit of discussion about how to have a little prize for people that do it. I think we're doing ice cream at Sweet and Salty, so you'll get a little coupon for that if you complete the survey, so we encourage people to do that.
So how many surveys are we targeting?
We're hoping to get several hundred.
Okay.
I mean, I
So
think
these will be citizen input?
these will be citizen input on housing in the Woodstock and Woodstock areas. So it'll go out to various email lists, so if anybody has an email list that they'd like to share, we'll
Will be
get
on
it
the
out.
listserv, for
It will
example?
be linked, there will be a link on the listserv, yes.
Okay,
So that's part and parcel of the upcoming survey that's being conducted right now, right?
The upcoming survey.
Well, the survey that we gave,
This is part of the housing study.
yes, housing, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I used
That
the
was
wrong
a
words.
trial call
Yeah.
that we saw.
Yeah.
So we met with Rainbow Play School, And after our last meeting last month, I was able to find a few grant opportunities for them and connected them with people at the Regional Planning Commission, as well as Phil, who will be helping them write a grant to the state. Just other miscellaneous, my notes, went to the Abracadabra Coffee meeting,
Right.
and there was somebody who talked to me about housing. Just the EDC projects, I've been attending the website meetings, and I've been connecting with the revitalization group to see where they are in that process. And my notes are a little messy here, so
That's
we'll make sure they're clean. But those are the types of things that are in my coordinator's report that sort of report on what I have done in the last month.
excellent. Thank you. So then I would move that
This is Nika. May I just ask you a quick question
Sure.
about the conversation that you had regarding the Central Street fire?
Yes.
How did that, or I don't know, what was the conversation about? And is there any other news? I guess, do you want to just elaborate on that just a little?
Well, I just happen to know the different parties that are involved, and so was talking with the property owner's local rep to see if they had any insight on how things might be moving along. Right now, I've heard various things, but nothing is public at this point, so. It's just making that connection to let people know that the EDC is interested in, moving that project forward and not having to sit there.
excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would then move to the subcommittee updates, promotion and website. Courtney, could you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving along just fine. Katie, who is doing, loading all our content, doing our social media, writing blogs, is doing so daily and weekly. SEO is strengthening as we go. We know we still have a lot of areas, a lot of pages to fill and get more detailed. But it's going in the right direction. Sometimes it's a process, especially with the way we are set up as a group. So we've got her 20 hours a week, right? So one of the things we did notice we want to do is when we are able to start collecting more content, we want to get more diversity in the especially in photographs, and when we do video and stuff, showing a little more in town right now. I think as a group we felt that was needed. We're kind of a little stale on what we have out there, so that's going to be important going forward, is how we collect that content. So we're going to talk more about that. Social media is coming along as part of Katie's job, is either getting that content from other folks or going out and getting it herself. Ad sales are moving along slowly, but it is moving along. And I'll say that. It's been very difficult to try to find a dedicated effort to sell. So some of us on the web committee have been tasked to try to find some people to buy. So we're doing pretty well on some of the feature ads, and we're trying to get more people listed. So it is growing, so we're at least comfortable with that. General maintenance, not a lot going on there. We are continuing to keep a list of enhancement projects as we move along to improve the site's functionality. Every time you bring a new website live, that's when you find things that you wanted to do that you didn't think of doing, or it's just the way it works. So, but overall, so far, good. I don't know if you want to guess that. I don't have my glasses, so I can't read any stats. But we are up. Oh, I see we're up. Okay. We're up users 35%. This is month over month, right?
Right.
Up new users 38%. Am I reading those numbers right? Sessions are up 33%, which is great. And pages per, is that pages per video right there? I can't tell. Page views up 23%, which is nice to see when people are moving around the site. Couple negatives, but the negatives are kind of really don't mean much. The bounce rate is down 4.19. What is the bounce rate at?
It was 49 and now it's 47?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much average in the site, so that's normal. So numbers looking good. We can keep sharing numbers as we go. The key is also to start looking at some year-over-year numbers, which we've presented before. I don't have those today, but those were looking strong as well. And most of that's versus the previous site. We even actually looked at the site before that and kind of keeping an eye on that. So we'll make sure we're performing better than that. That's all I have.
Have there been any more discussions about making the calendar robust? And
Yes, yeah, and good point. So the calendar, that's a discussion, how do we make the calendar whole, so to say, where we can put everything on there versus just a advertiser that would be on there. All the options been from making the advertisers have a featured listing on a calendar, and then we can still list everything else, or we could go and make that not an incentive and just list everything. That's something we're still working through, but no decision on that at this time.
It's a key discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Economic resources.
well, I think Sally kind of started with the Rainbow School. You want to?
I don't have anything more to add.
Yeah.
We're really kind of waiting for them at this point to see what they need. They're looking at their numbers and what else is out there. So
Yeah, but still, it's
In terms of what? In terms of fundraising for them?
they're just starting their fundraising, so they're looking at what their
how much
resources might be.
they'll need and when they might need it, and
So-
whether they need it from us or not.
Oh, so there may be a possibility that they won't need as much as they'd like to.
Well,
And I apologize for not making the last meeting.
Yeah,
But
that's okay.
Um,
So, yeah, it's dynamic. So, we know what their request was at our last meeting. We talked about some numbers,
Yeah.
but, so now we're just in continued discussion with them. But I think that the important part, though, is that with Sally on board, we're starting, and with Rainbow School, starting to do more of kind of the other element of EDC is business advocacy. And so finding and assisting with other grants is a phenomenal way to move business forward without, beyond just simply grant, using options tax grant money.
So, again, was it granted at the last meeting? Nothing
No.
was granted?
No,
Okay.
no.
Again, I apologize for that.
But the building is still available? and
Oh, they haven't bought it yet?
They have option
They
on
have an
it?
option on it.
They do have an option, okay, cool, thank you.
So we explored empty storefronts, and so we've been talking about a carrot and stick. The trustees are investigating stick options. So whether it's some kind of a fee or penalty or tax. We're trying to focus a bit more on the stick, so we can
carrot.
kind of have the carrot, so we can have complementary efforts.
I have the list of, do you want me to?
I'm sorry?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what we've been discussing is how to incentivize the renting of these properties, these empty storefronts that have been open for more than 6 months without rewarding landowners who may be charging over market value. So one of the things so we've come up with a series of qualifications for someone applying for a grant to open up a business in an as yet empty storefront. It would be a new business signing a 1-year lease to be reimbursed after 6 months. It has to be
Reimbursed after
Reimbursed
6
after
months.
6
after 6 months. In the meter zone, a storefront space. The second floor storefronts would be an option too, but it has to be visible from the street. It has to be filling a storefront that's been empty for more than 6 months. There would be up to, it would cover 2 months' rent based on an average per square foot adjusted, an average per square foot rate, which would be adjusted first versus second floor. And that, the 2-month rent rate would be adjusted once the stick option is in place, once the trustees sort out how they're going to penalize people who are not, who are keeping their prices prohibitive. Then we can modify what the actual financial incentive will be, but the rest of the rubric will remain. We're thinking that we would limit it at up to 3 grantees per year and cap possible monies granted at $20,000 a year.
Okay.
Well,
Matt,
Yeah.
can I speak to that? In my opinion, the carrot concept, I don't think I could fully support until I hear more about it. But it seems to me that's a short-term solution for a long-term problem.
The idea is that it will work in tandem with the stick,
Yeah.
but I think what we were thinking is that especially in light of the fire on Central Street,
Yeah.
given that that is not going to have a solution for the next calendar year at least,
At least.
filling the empty storefronts on Central strikes us as ever more urgent.
I'm delighted to see.
So while I agree that
Yeah.
it is not a long-term solution,
Right.
it may provide a short-term fix for problems that will be addressed with other structural changes in the
Yeah.
longer term.
Well, I'm happy to see that it appears to me that we're actually looking and willing to address this problem head on. I mean, we've done peripheral stuff in the past with a PR firm and a website and all this other stuff, but really haven't gone after the landowners or the property owners themselves, and I'm happy to see that that's happening. In my opinion, though, the stick thing is the way to go, as far as I'm concerned, because what it says to me, when a property owner leaves their building empty indefinitely and in disrepair, what that says to me is, I don't care how your town looks, and I don't care what happens to your town, I want my money. And I don't have a lot of sympathy
I don't
or
think
patience
anyone on
with
the
that
subcommittee
attitude.
disagrees with you at all in
Okay.
any way, on any level. I think that that's not
So
a
whatever the
solution.
trustees can come up with to give these guys a little shove in the direction, I would say we should completely support.
We've also been, we had discussed a stick, and we're sharing that with the trustees.
Good.
And yeah, you're right, it's not a perfect solution,
Yeah.
but we think the concept is sound, and these were kind of guidelines that we came up with, and hopefully we're here as a commission,
To
we can
discuss it.
fine tune this.
Yeah,
and put something together.
if there are
that we
other
like.
things that need to be added to that list, add away. I think it's very clear to us that we would need to adjust guidelines or requirements based on whatever the stick winds up being.
Yes.
But I think that for the moment, it's a good, we also talked about how it has the added benefit of getting word out about what the EDC is doing. And that we are, making it clear that we're putting our money where our mouth is. We want people to be applying for grants and
Well-
people to be moving into the downtown.
And what the town of Woodstock is doing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's good
exactly.
Public relations,
Completely.
just generally speaking.
And who knows, it might, business owners will do what business owners will do. Maybe they'll gravitate toward, maybe we'll fill up all the rest of the storefronts, and then the people who are charging over market value will be pressured to, I don't know. These are things that can't necessarily be foreseen. It seems like a good first step.
I think a lot of people have tried to predict it for a long time and it hasn't happened, even us. And, we've been trying to do that.
Good. Any other update, economic resources you have? Julia,
Yes,
you
we
have
scheduled,
grants?
yep.
Thank you.
Pardon? We have two grant workshops
Yep.
scheduled, one at the end of this month and one at the end of September. The dates are, I believe, and give me 1 second, I'm gonna have to look this up. August 21st and September 25th. Those are at the Optimist Center. The way that we've planned for them is that the first one is always a little more abstract, talks about what the grants are doing. The second one is a little bit, people will tend to come in with more specific ideas and want feedback on their proposals. Anyone who wants to come and do it, please do.
What time is it?
6. It really helps for potential grantees to hear from people, different commissioners who have different priorities and questions that they would ask. So the diversity of people who lead the workshops is really important.
Judy, I could ask you to set out a reminder a couple of days ahead of time?
Sure.
That would be great. Right?
Yeah.
How can we get more people to these workshops, Julie? You have any idea?
I don't know. Sally, how did we promote the last ones? We've had like 5 people at each.
Yeah, I promoted it on the listserv.
Listserv.
And then I can't remember if I did it for both of them, but I definitely sent it out to the nonprofit network list. So that's why we'll get a lot of nonprofits that are, because I think they're oftentimes the ones that are, certainly for the community grants, they might be the recipients more than individuals.
Is it Optimist
But
Center
if-
promoting?
Yeah, it's at the Optimist Center.
They're promoting
Travis,
it.
Yeah, they
yes,
do.
Travis has done a great job promoting it. He promotes it on their Facebook page. He has flyers up, so anyone who's coming and going from the Optimist Center is good. He has flyers, so if anyone wants to swing by there, I can tell him to print out extra flyers. If you want to put flyers anywhere, swing by and grab some and put them up.
Can we have the Standard kind of promote that the week before?
Sure,
I mean, I don't know how they.
we can try.
We can.
We still have a conversation
Yeah, we
to be
still have,
had.
we haven't,
Thank
I
you.
forgot to report on
But
that.
that's
Yeah.
a good idea. No, and we should contact the Daily UV too
I do
and see
too.
what.
Yeah.
So, we're not done. What
No,
other thing?
I also
We
have
had a
one
very
too.
busy week.
Just, I'm going to segue, but I'm going to come back to a point that's economic resources. Bookstock this past weekend, to me, seemed to be a fabulous success. I mean, the town was jumping, and, I'm happy that we participated. I did talk to the folks organizing group at Artistry on Friday last week at their Unbound session. And the request I asked them the question which we as a group asked, which was the idea of charging admission. How do we perpetuate this on an ongoing basis, and how do we continue to have the same quality? And the request that came back is really the point to this, which was, can the EDC provide, in addition to grant guidance, business guidance? So the question was, whether it's, we have a lot, me being one, and there's a group of others, of retired business execs or not retired, that we could somehow connect with local businesses. And so Bookstock, for one, was saying, there are a bunch of literary folks, and the idea of running businesses is not their number one. So I took that as more of a general question for your subcommittee to consider, and how do we as an EDC expand, or can we offer that? Because I think your grant workshops are perfect, but is there a follow-on? So that was just a...
So one thought to that, Travis and the Optimist Centers, their grant includes a number of 4-day business development courses and weekend workshops that might be appropriate for some of their representatives, but yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but we don't connect that to a grant request.
Right.
We haven't asked them to, have you checked your business model, or, just who do you have for advice?
Right.
So
Yep.
it's just, I thought it was a
Yeah,
very
it's a good idea.
spot-on question.
Yeah. So the
Go
other
ahead, Mika, did you have one?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's a really great point and a great idea. However, I think with the number of people, anyway, there are organizations out there that
Yep.
are already designed and created and have
That's correct.
troops of volunteers to help do that, like SCORE.
Right.
And so by no means am I suggesting that we, not lend a hand if it makes sense, but
Right.
I think also just sort of reminding people that those resources do exist already in the Upper Valley.
Right.
they're free.
And where there is a hole, if there is one, I would encourage someone to apply for an EDC grant to run a lecture series of some sort, or a mentorship program of some
Exactly.
sort, or some sort of,
Exactly.
it
I
doesn't
would-
strike
I
me
guess I
that
would
that's
just
within the
encourage us
purview.
to
I think that's a fantastic
not
idea.
try to recreate a wheel. if
No,
it's not-
I'm with Mika, I'm 100% with you, I don't want to recreate, but we have no expectations in our grant process to expect any of our grant request folks that they have incorporated or, utilized the services. So I just want to say that, we don't want to just give money, we want to make sure that we give money wisely and that we provide and connect folks to proper resources. Anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
it
sorry.
helps set people up for success. I think it's great. It's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Barry, you had a
One-
follow-up?
Yeah, one other thing that we've been discussing that I guess we'd like to get a sense of the commission before we spend more time on it is we kind of talked about ways to leverage the $10,000 state offer to get some positive press. What we most recently came around to was some kind of substantial welcome package. Maybe it's 10 or 15 $200 gift certificates for
To local businesses.
two local businesses.
Yep.
So it's kind of, and.
I'm sorry, how would that work?
So, exactly. If we know that's something we're interested in, we'll figure out how to make it work. But we're not, because there are some obvious challenges, which businesses, do businesses
I
participate?
think you probably have to hook up with the real estate people and make them aware of such a thing is available.
Mhm.
You have to have somebody who's interested in coming into town that, they notify somebody who is on that committee and they can kind of follow through on. I also think it would probably be good if, in addition to, a basket of goods, that we offer somebody on the commission their services to either introduce them to the police chief, the fire chief, the high school principal, the grammar school principal, so they can have any questions about what's going on in town, who's doing what.
Right.
Yep.
Those people can get those questions answered.
Yep. So I guess maybe the question is, are we on the right track to look at offering, call it somewhere in the order of $2,500 welcome package to new residents, and we would look at criteria. Maybe it's 40 and under, maybe it's
A kid in the school.
A
or
kid in
maybe
the
it's-
school,
We've
or-
been trying to figure out how do we draw the lines, where do we draw them?
it's got to be a primary residence.
Yeah.
It's not a second home.
Mhm.
So those
Gotta be
things we can
primary.
explore if it's something the commission would like us to pursue.
Would this be in addition to the 10,000?
In addition to what, Joe?
In addition to the state's 10,000.
But is it only if they qualify and they tap into that 10,000, or is this something that's a standalone?
I think it should be something standalone.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we had been, when
Yeah.
we had this conversation just casually, I think we talked about it, not necessarily being tied to working remotely.
Right.
But, which is what the 10,000 state dollars are tied to having a remote job
Right.
that you bring from out of state and you move your residents to be in state. So it's a pretty limited group of people that are gonna fall into that rubric. We were talking about tying it to something else, but kind of continuing that sort of momentum of trying to bring new families in particular, or younger.
Is it worth talking to a group of the realtors and get their
Yeah.
thoughts on
Yeah,
what they may think works?
I think that's exactly what to do.
I think one part of it is if they know they're going to get something for moving here versus we moved here, and we happen to get something.
Yes.
It's a completely different.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
because if you're just getting something and you moved here anyways, it doesn't mean anything.
And we talked about maybe like making it, you could pick 10 local businesses such that different people with different needs could take advantage of different local things. So like, maybe someone would pick the health club and the play school and and Max, and maybe someone else is going to pick
And there may
Prince
be
and
other,
Popper and Abracadabra and whatever. Like, who knows? The point is that to make it adjustable and customizable to different people who are moving here.
So what we do know about real estate is that this year is not quite as strong as last year, but having said that, it is still a great real estate year. What we also know is, unfortunately, the majority of the folks are like me that are gray hairs. And so I would hope that if you were to offer this, that you would target, like you said, kids or age.
We've been trying to figure out where do we, because we want to do that, and certainly one of the ways that we had thought that it had been suggested that we do that was targeting putting a kid in school.
Right.
But at the same time, there are plenty of younger people who move here who don't have kids when they move here.
Right. Still be great to have
Considering
here.
having children when they move here,
Right.
or to have children.
Or maybe
So-
maybe the real estate companies could be helpful in
Right.
kind of filtering out who to approach and who not to. Like,
Yeah.
filter out the second home people, but if you got somebody with a couple of kids, let's see how we can get them to stay here.
Well,
We'll get to do it.
The interesting thing is when he's saying the real estate market is it's not as good because of inventory, not because of interest.
That's right.
And it's so, we've actually filled our houses.
Right.
I mean, that's the interesting part about it.
Inventory,
So do we have any houses for people to live in?
That's a fair point
It's
too.
hard to imagine if you're buying a home for $300,000 or $400,000, how $1,000 is going to make any incentive.
I don't think that I had not considered tying it to ownership necessarily. I had considered not necessarily tying
So
it to that.
rental would be okay.
Yeah, if
But
you're coming, if you
As long as you have a child in school.
Yeah, if you're changing your why, I mean, and that was where, to me, the customizable welcome basket struck me as important, because it makes it clear that we're
Yeah,
considering different people's different needs.
because maybe the rental will convert into a buying situation.
I think, Jill, the way I would answer the question is the fact that we all saw the national press that was achieved by the $10,000 offer. If Woodstock decided to offer something in addition, again, I think it would at least cause those folks that were considering moving to Vermont to certainly consider Woodstock. And there would be a follow-on, I think, favorable press for Woodstock.
So maybe it speaks to targeting tighter so that you can give more to each person rather than trying to go wide and then go lower on what you can offer.
Well, there's a good point there. I'm thinking about that old first home buyer credit. Again, I'm not sure if that's still a big federal piece, but it's thinking in that term. So you're actually probably most time looking for a younger clientele that's coming in, maybe starting a family and
Which
targeting
is why
that.
you don't target it to home ownership necessarily.
Right,
Because
right.
a lot of people can't necessarily
So,
buy.
but where that small amount of money actually may mean a lot more.
Yes.
Credit may mean a lot more.
So we all realized, come to one thing, is that a child coming into our school, what's the equalized pupil amount that we get now?
17,000?
$17,000. So if they stay here in the school 2 years even, we've made a good investment. And, potentially that person will choose, they'll be here for 10 years, and we're looking at a very good return.
So my comment wasn't don't give money.
No,
My
I'm
comment is
just
give
trying to
money
make
that
sure
means-
that we share
Absolutely.
that.
And I think,
You go ahead.
well, I was just going to speak to the part of why the national press loved the $10,000 incentive thing so much was because it really showed that lawmakers are trying to do something about something that needs to be done, right? And they're identifying a problem and they're trying to fix it in a contemporary and kind of sexy way, right? So I think our idea was not that, I don't know that we'll get national press in
No.
a tiny town in Vermont
Maybe.
offering us a welcome basket, but I do think that it could,
Right.
it could make noise for the same reason. The town people are talking about, they're identifying a problem, and coming up with a creative and financial solution.
Right.
But I
Let me
like
go
that
over
idea,
here
getting
next.
pressed, getting real sexy with it and getting pressed for it. Yeah.
So if I understand this, if you're above a certain age, you don't qualify?
Could be.
Isn't that a little discriminatory?
Could be.
Just asking.
No, fair point.
I think the answer to that would be, and I don't know how I would answer that really.
Was the
but-
state grant, the state grant had certain limitations and restrictions defined. So by definition, it was discriminatory.
No, but it wasn't based on it was based on job,
Right.
a certain type of job.
And this one could be too. I mean, we haven't,
We
we're
don't know.
exploring ideas right
Yeah.
now.
So we're talking, no.
No,
And
it's a
that's a
great
really good
question.
point.
I
Because it
spend-
feels
I
weird to
mean-
say under 40 apply for this.
I'm
Yeah.
over 40 and I spend a lot of money in town, at restaurants, at stores, so
Yep.
why don't I qualify for that?
Well, if I remember the state grant proposal correctly, it was in order to assist young fam, or somebody coming in to this state and be a home occupation, so to speak, and it was to be used specifically, as I read it, for stuff like new computers, moving your all that sort of stuff. I mean,
That's a business though, so.
right, it was for job change to the
Right, you can be
state.
75 years old, have a business, and come in here and get that $10,000.
Yeah, totally.
I think,
Okay.
I think it's okay to target a certain group if it's an area that needs to be lifted up and something. If you specify exactly the reasons why you're targeting that, why it makes a lot more sense. So, you know, in our case, we know that in the older age bracket's going to grow tremendously, and the other two are not. You know, if you
Our
break it down
concern
to
is,
three
and it's always been
segments.
a high metric of ours,
Yeah.
is school age, the elementary school population.
Right.
That
So
has
you're
always been a high
assisting that.
metric.
Yep.
Yeah, the town can't, if the town doesn't have an elementary school,
Yeah.
you look at all the statistics of different towns that lose their schools for lack of children in it, and then what happens to the town?
So to your sense, I'm sorry, Jill, did you have a follow-on? Okay. I think, Barry, to your question, I think the sense is interest to continue to pursue.
Great.
Cool. Let me keep moving on then. Any other economic resources? Good work, thank you. Civic revitalization. Mika, Sally, update, or where are we on the proposal? Mika?
Yeah, so it's been kind of quiet on our end, although Du Bois and King has been busily working on their side.
Okay.
They recently sent over an existing conditions report, which has been forwarded to the subcommittee as well as to some other, to a couple of select board members, a trustee, and Charlie, I think we also sent it to. So there's the subcommittee and another 4 people that are reviewing it and getting ready for a meeting next week with Du Bois and King to sort of flush out some ideas from it and see if anything rises to the top.
Do we have a timeline? Help me understand the timeline.
That's something that we will be discussing more in depth at the meeting. So, I mean, all I can do really is give you some just general information that the goal is to have a final report with actual, concrete ideas that have been approved by subcommittee and local townspeople and all the appropriate people. We would like to have that to the select board in time for their budget process. Which, if I remember correctly, if I'm understanding, I think Jill is in the audience, and
Yep.
if I remember correctly, Jill, that time frame was that mid-November?
November-ish, yes.
Okay, so we'll have a final report you're targeting, let's say, by October?
We're targeting for the budget, whatever that is. I didn't hear what she just said. So
In November?
we basically need to work back. Yes. So
Okay,
we need to work backwards from that.
okay, keep us updated. Recreational assets, I guess I'll speak to that. We haven't had a meeting in this past 3 weeks since our last update. We did, as we reported last month, have begin meetings with property owners to explore the potential for the River Loop Trail, and initial meetings were positive, and so we now need to take next steps. So I don't have a lot to
You're
report
gonna stick with that, Tom?
with, yeah.
After
Yeah.
you get off the commission, yeah?
Yep, River Loop, yep. So stay tuned. We remain excited about the opportunity and glad that we appear to have cleared a major hurdle. Any other subcommittee comments, questions? With that, other business, Sally, you've indicated review board terms.
Yes, that was another request from the select board. They just wanted to, we have a couple of, or at least one member who really hasn't been to many meetings, and we just would like, they would like it to.
Okay.
There are people that they had that were interested, so maybe Jill can speak to that.
So when we appoint people on different boards,
Yep.
there's been a behavior in Woodstock that we appoint forever, because there's never enough volunteers to go on the boards. But in this case, there are plenty of people who want to be on this board.
Right.
So I think you're actually appointed for a term.
That's
And
correct.
at the end of that term, I mean, if you follow non-profit practices, it's good practice to ask, are you still interested in attending? And also Sally on the Planning Commission has a rule of, if you don't turn up to so many meetings, you're asked to leave. You're asked if you're interested and why didn't you come, and it starts a conversation so that your meeting should be full, because there are people waiting to be on your board. So it was asked, so we asked Sally to see where everything sits with you guys. So there's nothing, so at the end of your term, maybe you have to reapply. I don't know how it would work, but let's at least see the situation.
So are you suggesting at the end of the term you get booted? No?
No, I think you'd reapply, or
Okay.
perhaps you'd reapply, I don't know. But right now, there are people waiting to be on your board, and there are people who are not turning up to meetings, so at least let's start there.
That makes sense.
So broadening that to a couple of questions, do we have an identified new commissioner?
There's one.
Yes.
Yes, John Spector.
Thank you.
Does that mean you weren't told?
Well, there was never an official communication. No.
I guess I,
The only reason I know is I went to the meeting.
No, I knew because somebody
Right,
told me,
yeah.
but there was never an official communication.
yeah, I guess maybe that should have been me, sorry.
The individual, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I would carry that one step forward, which is the fact that other than Robert's rules, we have no official policies.
Policy.
Policies in general.
In general, we have, this, kind of the body of our meetings, but we have no policies, even as it relates to board terms, to that question beyond that. So I just asked the EDC to consider that. I mean, I don't know if, we don't want to sit here and spend time codifying all types of rules, but there might be a few that we do. And I'm not suggesting, but, we're here.
Or maybe the select board and the trustees could do some for every board. There's a lot of boards.
That would be very good.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
probably don't have to completely reinvent the wheel. I'm sure
No,
there's some
it's just
things.
one set
Right,
of
just
rules
give
about
us some
it.
guidelines, and that would be very helpful. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. But we do, in our, in the town report, we do have terms.
Yes.
So we are, by person, by date, expire date, and so on. So that is defined by person. Okay.
What is our term? I don't even know.
Huh?
What is our term?
It's a 3-year.
3 years.
Yep. And we have, I don't know, we just kind of, change dates when we haven't extended anybody. We just added.
Well, they used to be better, because for planning commission, I used to get a regular, every 3 years, I
Right.
was sent another letter, so I don't know if I've gotten one recently.
And we don't know if we're, like on other boards, whether 2 terms is max, and however that works. So, if the select board could also give us some guidance. Is there any other new business? Hearing none, I would then request that we move into executive session. And thank all for attending. And we will then adjourn. We will take no action in the executive session. So thank you.
You want to vote to go into executive session, and what's the purpose of it?
Okay. Contract negotiation. And I would take a motion to move into executive session. Second by Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Julia, aye.
Mika, aye.
Mika, aye.
Thank you. We're all happy now.